Good morning and welcome back. Recently, Melinda fielded a question online from a new kayaker about how to load multiple kayaks into a pickup truck. And she suggested to me that I show you how we went about doing it. This person, didn't have a trailer. They had just bought their kayaks. They didn't have a trailer yet, and they were wondering if there were any alternatives to having to purchase a trailer to carry their kayaks. So I'm going to show you what I did and how Tim and I loaded our kayaks. So this is my kayak rack, and it looks a little worse for the wear than it did when I first built it, but it's 4 years old now, and it's got some scratches and some chips and dings, but it's still working. And I'll show you how I built it. It was super easy. The first thing I did was measure the inside of the bed, and I cut a 2x4 that fit that width for the front and for the back. Then I took 2-inch PVC pipe. Now I wanted to use 3, but at the time 3-inch pipe was ridiculously expensive compared to 2-inch, so I went with the 2-inch. Now my bed is like a 6.5-foot bed or something like that, so I bought 2 10-foot sticks of PVC and I cut them in half. So each one of these 4 pieces is 5 feet long. Now for different pickup trucks, of course, measurements will be different. And I have a 6.5-foot bed on my truck, and so my first 2x4 that I made, you see here, was 62 inches long. And then for the bottom piece, I wanted to extend it out some. That cantilever out also provides a good handle when you're putting it on, taking it off. And you see, it was just a shade over 6 feet, just enough to rest completely across the bed rails on each side. And I don't remember what we put between them. So 59 inches between the two of them. Okay, so the first thing I did, when I cut the boards, and then I cut another board that actually extended a little bit over the sides of the bed on each side. Now, my bed on my truck has a plastic top on the bed rail. If yours does not have that, you can put a piece of bunk carpeting or something like that around the bottom piece of wood there so it doesn't scratch your truck up. All right, centered everything up with the 2x4s and screwed it down all the way across. The reason I went with 2 2x4s was just to prevent it from sagging under the weight of the kayaks as badly. All right, I put the kayaks up on the rack and holding it down. Now, because mine are the bunks are only 5 feet long, my kayak sticks out several feet. Now it rides in front of the bunk some, but it sticks out probably 4 or 5 feet from the back there. I positioned the 2-inch PVC underneath the hull of the kayak to where it would provide the best support, and I made a mark on the 2x4s. Take the kayak off. I drilled a 3/4 inch hole through the top. That allowed me to get inside with a 1/4 inch bit and to drill a 1/4 inch hole through here. And I used lag bolts. Now you can use regular bolts and just put a nut on the bottom of it, however you want. I used, because I had 2 thicknesses of 2x4, I used like 2.5 inch lag screws, and it goes down through both 2x4s. And I put a big washer. Let's see if I can get in there. I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. I put a big washer on each lag screw just to keep the screw head from busting through the PVC. And as you tighten it down, it'll deform to the PVC and help hold everything tight. Make sure everything is squared up in the way I attached it. Get over here where I can show you. The way I attached it, I got 3-inch C-clamps and just clamped the wood down to the bed on the underside. Tighten tighten it up real good. Tighten it up real good, and it's solid. It doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't move. And I can take the whole rack off if I want to use the truck for something else. Now, the reason that I went with this design was, obviously two kayaks, would rub together in the bed of the truck. And both Tim's and my kayaks were new at the time, and we didn't really want them scratched up or rubbed up. So this got them apart from each other. And once the kayaks are up on it, I put an eye bolt in the end of each 2x4, and I put an eye bolt in the middle of the 2x4s there. And that's my tie down points for ratchet straps to go over and hook in the middle. Now you can also carry just one kayak this way and hook your ratchet strap to the middle same way. But doing it like this leaves room down here in the bed. You still have plenty of room. You can put your coolers, your seats, your paddles, whatever you need to, put all that stuff in there. Or if you're carrying another kayak, a third kayak, it can go in there and you'll still have room for coolers and seats and paddles and stuff. So this was how this was the idea that we came up with. We built this one, put it on my truck, and then went and got the stuff and built another one almost just like it. Now Tim's truck has an 8-foot bed, so the bunks are longer on his to provide a little bit more support. But we built another one, put on his truck, so we could leave one truck at one landing, take the other truck, go and launch, and then we had racks to put the kayaks on when we recovered. So this is what we did. Like I said, this one's a little worse for the wear. The rack has been left on the truck sometimes for weeks on end, like while I was at work. And PVC, if it's constantly exposed to sun and weather and all, will tend to get brittle. And you can see where this one broke. But like I said, it still works. Pretty simple way. At the time, I think these probably cost me $30, $40 a piece, something like that. For the PVC was the biggest expense, but for the lumber, the PVC, the hardware, everything, it was probably 30, 40 bucks. And like I said, oh, by the way, I used treated lumber for these also. I didn't use regular lumber. These are treated 2x4s. And of course, the thought process there was just to stave off any rot. Now, if I had it to do over again, I would, instead of using lag bolts, I would put bolts all the way through the 2x4 with a lock nut, with a nylock lock nut on the bottom, and especially with the eyes. And I would, now the center eye of the lag screw might be all right, but on the outside, instead of screwing the eyes into the end of the 2x4, I would extend the 2x4 out another 2 or 3 inches this way and put the bolt all the way through with a nylock lock nut on the bottom of it. And these do tend to, over time, they do tend to get loose, especially when you're putting ratchet straps on them and cranking it down. Now, one thing about these, once your kayaks are loaded and tied down and secure, go to wherever you're going and get them off of it. Like I said, you've got 4 or 5 feet hanging out back here, and down here in the south, in the summertime, the sun is really brutal. That plastic does get soft, and your kayak can sag if you leave it on there, just sitting in the sun for an extended period of time. Another thing I did with mine, I took a Sharpie marker. Once I had the rack mounted and square to the bed of the truck, just like I wanted it, and I just made a little dotted outline of the 2x4 at each point where the 2x4 crosses the bed rail. And that way, when I take the rack off and put it back on, I have a reference point. I come straight back to it every time with no problem, because the rack, once you take it off, it won't stay square. It does flex and move, and also when you put it back on, you just line up with your marks down here and clamp it down, and it's right where it's supposed to be. These marks, I used, like I said, a Sharpie, and I put those marks on there 4 years ago when I built it. They're still very visible. They haven't gone away or washed off. So yeah, just a little reference point so you'll know where to put them back at. Another thing I would do different as I built it, I would put an angle on the end, maybe a 22.5 degree or a 45 degree, just a slight turn down. That would give you a little bit of a ramp as you bring the kayak up onto the rack, and it would help protect the ends of it. Now, incidentally, this rack was not even mounted on my truck when this broke. It was sitting on the ground behind me, and something got dropped on it and broke it. But it's held up well. Oh, and that's also Schedule 40 PVC, by the way. Don't get thin wall PVC. It'll just squish out flat, and you'll be back to square one in no time. Now, in the front, when we put the kayaks on, we have one person pushing and then another person. What I usually do is just make a fist here, and when the kayak hits my fist before it hits my back window, that's where we stop at, and we tie it down right there. That gives us about 4 inches or so between the bow of the kayak and the window of the truck. Nothing will ruin a good kayaking trip like a busted out window. But that's it. That's all there was to it. It took us a couple hours. We were designing as we went when we built this one. And after that, it took us about a half an hour to cut his out and put it together. And like I said, the only difference is his bunks are 8 feet long, where mine are 5 feet long. Well, I hope this helps you. I hope it helps somebody. And I hope you enjoyed the video. And we'll see you on the next one. Take care.